Welcome, Warrior. This is our edition of Sunday Night Live right here with the Warrior. Welcome, welcome, welcome. A couple of housekeeping rules to go over before we start. You must subscribe to our channel because once again, we are hearing pretty much on a daily basis that people are subscribing and then they are being unsubscribed. So we don't really know what that's about, but I'm here to tell you, please just subscribe, hit the little bell. You want to be notified. Especially, you can join and be a member of Lynn's Warriors and get videos we're putting out before everybody else. Thank you. I wanted to jump right in and talk about a couple of different things. But first, I want to start with something. Let me see how I can put this. You know, we do a lot of work at the Warriors you may not ever and probably won't hear about. The people I know doing the best, most incredible work are people you are never going to hear about, the ones really getting the job done. If you don't like what I have to say, or you think you're telling me something I don't know, I respectfully say to you, be very careful. Be very careful of what you write. Be very careful of throwing names around. Be very careful of suggesting people and websites. Just be very careful. Because, those faces you see on, let's see, for instance, Fox News or perhaps all over the internet regarding human trafficking, regarding the border, regarding anything, and believe you me, I have heard it all, are not necessarily the people really doing anything. I'm going to leave it at that. So please, I suggest be very careful when it comes to this subject in particular of children, sex trafficking. I'm going to throw in labor trafficking because we hardly ever talk about it, and we have to because we know a lot of kids are involved in working in jobs they should not be working because, frankly, Democrats and Republicans both like cheap labor. So I wish I wish the candidates would talk about that a little bit while we have 14-year-olds working in automotive plants, 12-year-olds working in lumber yards, 15-year-olds working in bars, but nobody's really talking about that. So let me just put that out there. I don't need any suggestions like that from certain people that I know you mean very well, that because you see them on certain networks or you see they have a big fancy website or whatever. Be very careful when it comes to human trafficking, kids, sex trafficking, who you're talking about, who you're suggesting, who you think is good. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's see where we are. I hope I'm coming in. I'm going to do a little sound check. Can you hear me? As my husband would say, 5 by 5. Please, I don't see anybody. I guess you would have said by now that you can't hear me if you can't hear me. So can somebody just let me know that you can hear me? I am coming in because, with all this technology, there we go. Tomcat, 5 by 5. Gay, going to watch you daily. Thank you. Greg, yes, sounds good. There's Hillbilly, 5 by 5. Thank you. And Papa Kilo 2. Interesting name. Let's jump in. A couple of things. I want to get on the Menendez brothers. And while this, I'm going to call it a docudrama. Thank you, Sean, 5 by 5. Nancy, 5 by 5. Good. I'm good to go. And I've got my warriors all here. Why I want to talk about the Menendez brothers, I'm old enough, and you may be as well, I don't know everybody's ages, to remember that case that went down. The shooting of their parents on August 20th, 1989. And I remember the case like yesterday. Two brothers, Lyle, born in 1968, and Eric, born 2 years later in 1970. Jose and Kitty Menendez, those were the parents. I want you to listen to me very carefully when we talk about this and why this really demands dissecting and analyzing a little further from what we know, what we've seen, and yes, they are both in prison for life right now. There is talk of a retrial for both of them. Hi, Leslie. Why it's important is because since 1989, we didn't even talk about, for the most part, we barely talked about domestic violence. And that kind of came about in the 80s, into the 90s, kind of was touched upon with the OJ case. We got into that a little bit, not enough, in my opinion, or anybody's opinion. But let's go through the decades. Now we talk much more openly about domestic violence. I think you'll all agree with me on that. Now, human trafficking. It is, you know what I'm going to say? It's kind of the what shall I say? The thing to do du jour. I know that's not the right name for it. There are so many groups and organizations and nonprofits, individuals, the government all jumping on this, and rightfully so in 2024. But are they getting the work done? Is the information really getting out into the public? Are we spending resources for housing, but also not just slapping the Band-Aid? We got to get in there. We got to stop it. I don't know. Things like close the borders. That would be a start. Things like human trafficking education in every single school, i.e. digital safety education, if you don't want to use the word human trafficking. I don't know. That's not happening. It's a school by school type of thing, district by district, state by state. There are all kinds of things we could do to thwart, help, and stop big tech allowing things on their platforms. It's just not being done. But let's get back to the Menendez brothers, because I did what they call the old binging on the series. I think it's 9 episodes. And I really, and I finished it 2 nights ago. And I'm still thinking about it. And here's why. Now we talk much more openly about, within families, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, right, in 2024. However, it is still hidden a lot, and we don't talk about it enough. So we're doing both. Throwing out a fact, I just want to throw something out at you while I remember. Human trafficking. It is 2 words that are hard for people to really understand, and I don't blame you. It sounds like some kind of huge something somewhere else, right? It is simply forced fraud or coercion to get somebody to do something against their will for monetary gain. That's what it is. It can happen on your devices. It can happen in real time. We have children. They are with their families. They go to school every day. They sleep in their own beds at night, and their parents traffic them. It is human trafficking. They are sold. Most human trafficking is over 62% that we know about. Remember, when I tell you a percentage, it's always higher. This is just what we know about. So 62%, we'll go with that. It is somebody, the child, the teen knows. It is somebody it is either their family or their family circle, the aunt, the uncle, the neighbor. Keep that in mind. It is not always the stranger. So 62% plus, I'm going to word it that way, is somebody the child knows. Now think about that. A child sleeping in their own bed, a child going to school. This is why, as a society, we all need to look at indicators of what this is. It is the #1 crime in our country. Rest assured, I have it on very good authority. It is not the drug trade. It is human trafficking, and specifically also of our children, and escalating, and how people can put their heads on their pillows at night. I do not understand, right? I had a meeting a couple of days ago, somebody who knows a lot about all of this. And the bottom line, he said to me, simply was, people working with sex trafficking, labor trafficking, survivors, just don't know what they're doing. They just don't know what they're doing. And that, to me, is not a good enough answer at all. That is unacceptable. That is disgusting. And yes, Leslie, a person with easy access to the child. Yes. But also, we have so many. Remember, I always say to you, it's that wheel with a lot of spokes. And all the different spokes, the different issues make the wheel go round, right? We know that domestic violence and human trafficking intersect. Most victims of sex trafficking are also victims of domestic violence. Right before I started this, which is why I was 2 minutes late, and but thank you for not complaining, anybody, is because something came across my desk. A horrible story. I get all kinds of press releases and law enforcement press releases, all kinds of things nonstop. It goes 24 hours a day, rest assured. And it is a family in Oklahoma City, I believe. I have to go back and review it. I read it very quickly and had to stop in my tracks. A family with two little boys, 3 and 4 years old, and then also an 11-month-old baby girl. And because a neighbor saw these two little boys naked upstairs in this window, I think more than once, a lot, she finally reached out to law enforcement to go and investigate. And what they found was such a house of horrors. I can't even go into it on the YouTube, as we say. Why there's such abuse like this is beyond anybody. I can't believe people can do this to children. Let me just look at some of the comments before I now tie this into the Menendez brothers and why I want us to really look at this. Let's see. We need to protect our children, Leslie says, any way we can. Absolutely. Leanne's ready to learn more. B51, 3 question marks. Not sure what that refers to. That is one stat out there as well. I find it a little misleading. I think there's far more than 100,000. Let's see where we're going with all this. Liza, or Liza, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Foster care, very easy access. That one we haven't even begun to touch upon. Yes, we know the foster care, the group homes, the foster parents, it's a money-making operation, re-victimizing children and teens. And nobody's doing anything to stop it. Howie Brown gifted 10 Lynn's Warriors memberships. Thank you, Howie, from the bottom of my heart. We need everybody to become a member. We need everybody to know this information. I don't want you just to know it. I want you to do something with it. I want you to hug your kids and make them understand age appropriate what's going on. I want you to talk to your family members. I want you to know what to do to report something. You're not held accountable if you're wrong. I can't tell you how many people have said to me, I knew it in my gut. I didn't do anything. I saw this 20 years ago. I saw it 10 years ago. I saw it 5 years ago. We have to do everything in our power. If those two little boys I just told you about, if that woman didn't see them in the window, in conditions I can't really talk about here. If she didn't, how long would this go on? Unfortunately, in 2024, we live in an environment in the United States. This is what's going on. And we're here. And we have to all do something about all of this, whatever small thing you can do. And if it's just within your home, education, with your kids and the digital safety, if it's just sharing something, I always say this to you on Twitter, on Facebook, go to lynswarriors.org, a story I put. I can't keep up with what's going on. And I work in this, I kid you not, at least 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I want to get back to the Menendez brothers. Yes, Pie Wolf, you're correct. In the 70s, mothers were selling their daughters on downtown Baltimore streets. Nothing's new under the sun. There's nothing new. The difference, though, I believe, Pie Wolf and my warriors, is people, it has become normalized, much more normalized. People are much more habituated to this. People find it much more acceptable to do this, right? That's the problem. Like, where is this going to be in 5 years? If this is the mindset, it's okay to do this. It's okay if you're struggling financially to sell your child, right? How many people told me I only thought I'd do it once for rent money, but it continued, right? But let's get back to the Menendez brothers, because in going back, they are claiming that they did away with their parents because they were afraid their parents, their father in particular, was going to do away with them. And I think you know what I mean by do away. Their father, Jose, was born in Cuba. He came here. He married Kitty. I believe they lived in, I think it was Illinois. Then they moved to New York City. He put himself through Queens College. Then they moved down in the Princeton area in New Jersey, and very nice area. And they had the boys. And then Jose, when the boys were teenagers, was given a great big new position with an entertainment company. And he came home one day and said, we're all moving to Beverly Hills. Hillbilly says people seem afraid to get involved. I understand that. People should be, but we all have to do something. You can do things anonymously. You can donate $5. You've done something. You can ask your child or grandchild. So tell me, not accusatory or not, oh my goodness, this is going on. That's going on. Has this ever happened to you? So, little Billy, what games do you play? Do you know everybody you play with? Are they your friends? Are they strangers? You start the conversation. It's us and them together, not us versus them. There's so many little tips you can do and take action. That's a warrior's take action. Kim says, I work in a homeless shelter for drug addiction. And these people that are under the age of 25 have been doing it forever. And yes, it's not good. I hear so many stories. Okay, I see what's going on. Yeah. So I'm here to say research shows, studies show, human interaction shows, usually when children tell you something, they're telling you the truth, right? So I'm thinking now about the Menendez brothers. They were thick as thieves. The older brother, Lyle, was the brasher one, the more outgoing one. Eric was a little shyer, but a great tennis player. And they were living seemingly what looked like this beautiful life in Beverly Hills. Beautiful home. Lyle, the oldest one, went off to Princeton for a while before he was kicked out for plagiarism and some other abuses. And Eric was going to stay in Beverly Hills, live at home, and go to college there. Now, if you watch this Netflix series called Monsters, right away, monsters. Who are the monsters? The parents or the two boys? We don't know. It's for you to decide. They were originally tried individually in court, and it was a mistrial for both of them. They were retried together. Now listen up to this part of it. Although it was mentioned sexual, emotional, and physical abuse from both of their parents in the first trial for both of them, trials, I should say, these mistrial for both of them. Next, they're retried together. That evidence and all of that, which I don't know why, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know why, was not allowed to be entered into the second trial. And they were both convicted. Life in prison. Now, if you watch the series, now again, it's a dramatization. It's this Ryan Murphy. Are you familiar with him? Doing American Horror Story. He did the Jeffrey Dahmer story. He seems to be taking all the court cases. I think he did Versace a couple of years back. So now he's taking this. However, there has been talk. I started seeing it probably a year ago, probably a little more than a year ago, that this evidence now in 2024 going forward of the abuse they claim they endured at the hands of their parents needs to be entered. They need to have a retrial because we've come that far since 1989. Now there's more talk. I am in no way condoning their violence, and nobody should. And even they are on record saying, this is what we did. We're responsible. But this is what happened to both of us. The emotional, the physical, and the sexual abuse. And that has to be taken into account. Michael, this is ancient history, Lynn. Well, you know what? I don't know what that means, Michael, but if you don't like it, you don't have to listen, frankly. And you're not listening to what I'm saying, because I'm saying now we have different thinking. We have different kinds of legislation. We need to address this. We're throwing people in prisons, in jails. It reminds me of right now, a little bit of an analogy. I digress though a little bit, is that, there are many girls right now that are thrown into adult prisons. And they could be 16, 17 years old, that were considered prostitutes, that were accused of crimes, either getting other girls into prostitution, either stealing things, these organized crime rings. But what you have to understand, this is the part, I don't know, people they're not able to really understand this, is that there's always a pimp or a trafficker behind that girl, right? There's a recent case of Crystal Kaiser, who, after years of being under the thumb of a pimp, of a trafficker, she shot him one night and killed him. Now she's in prison. She's in prison. There are other cases right now. These girls, young women, go to prison, but their pimp and trafficker, still alive, does not go to prison because the way the laws are set up, they're being accused of. But why isn't the pimp and trafficker also going to prison? Why aren't these girls, they are victims of the pimp and trafficker? We know in prostitution, 97%. Again, that's what we're told. It's probably higher. Could be 100%. Who knows? I'm going to say 99 because I'm sure there's a 1% who are doing it because they want to do it. But I don't care if it's any percentage are forced into this force for a coercion. That is being a victim of sex trafficking. They're not doing it willingly. So, Sean Lucan, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Super sticker for you. We have to look at what these two brothers went through. And if you watch this Netflix series, of course it's, well, we don't know because again, it was not authorized by them. And it's salacious. It's in some point, but when we talk about these issues, they're naturally salacious, right? We don't know if it's true or not, is what I'm saying. But we do know that there were definitely people from years ago who heard about this, including their aunt, who said, yes, the boys are telling the truth. And there's also their cousin, who, when they lived in New Jersey, came to stay with them for a while. And Lyle, the oldest one, confided in her that this is what my father's doing to me. And she's on record saying this. So this is, nothing, no hearsay or anything. And that the cousin went to the mother right away. And what did she do? She called Lyle, her son, a liar. He's a liar. He makes things up. That was dismissed. Uh, when Lyle went off to Princeton before he got kicked out, he told his roommate there that his father was doing this to him in the past as a child. The roommate has gone on record to say this. The renewed interest came about because the father, the entertainment company the father was working for, remember the days of the boy bands and all that? The entertainment company was involved with that, putting them on tours and on the road. And one of these boy banders, for shorthand, came to stay with them, also in New Jersey, and came forward fairly recently to say that Jose Menendez abused him. And he never talked about it. Now he's talking about it. So you see, we have to look at all of this abuse. Again, not condoning the violence out of the two boys who readily admit we did this. But we have to look at parents and people who do this, right? KWC says, I'm inclined to believe them. Sounds a lot like my deceased husband's family. The mother pimped the kids out. The whole family is messed up. It is, again, I wish everybody would watch. It's on Netflix, the Menendez brothers, because it was Eric, in talking to the younger one, a therapist, who, and this is another crazy thing. The therapist they're finding out was somewhat unlicensed. I don't know what somewhat unlicensed is. It's like unlicensed or licensed. And he, at the time, the therapist had a girlfriend. This is all on record. And Eric could no longer hold in. Remember in the beginning, if you're familiar with it, they got away with it. They thought it was some sort of mob hit, the way it was done. The father somehow, remember, music business, mob, all intertwined together, and thought that it was a mob hit. Although there was some suspicion they didn't have anything really on the brothers. And so Eric, the youngest one, couldn't hold it in. He couldn't live with it. He's having nightmares. And he continues talking to this therapist he had been going to and just spills it all out. And the therapist calls his girlfriend, this is a married man, calls his girlfriend, follow this, and says, you're not going to believe it. Come over here, sit in the waiting room, be a witness to this, listen at the door. I need a witness. Again, as they say, a somewhat unlicensed therapist. I'll have to look into this a little bit more. And he's the one, the girlfriend and the therapist broke up. And as revenge, she went to the police. It's all on record. And she said, this is what happened. And I was in the waiting room and blah, blah, blah. And that opened up this whole case. Yes, Leanne says the children do not make the stories up, especially at a young age. You're exactly right. At a young age, they are telling the truth. The teens, it's a little bit of a different story. But if your child is 13, 14, 15 and starts acting extra weird, and you know what I mean by that. Who knows better than a parent, a caretaker, a grandparent, right? Because kids, hormonal teens, they're acting out. They've switched all of a sudden from this loving little, 12-year-old, and they've just become crazy in your house or something. Something's going on. Something's making them that way. And I don't mean to sound like flip here, but like get the kids, off news platforms. And that goes hand in hand with the devices, right? Because when we hear kids have 9 to 17 access to 4 devices in their homes, the laptops, the phones, the gaming, computers, that's a lot of devices. And they're seeing, look what we're seeing. Look how adults are traumatized, flipping out. Look what's going on. And this is all trickling down. The kids are seeing all of it as well. What do you think they think of all of this? We do a lot of focus behind the scenes. And a new report was just came out that kids want the devices. They don't want to have so much access to devices. They understand, especially the teens, the these devices have impacted, these apps, this constant swiping, constant comparing, likes, algorithms, keeping it up, with the other teens has really taken a lot out of them. So this is good. The pendulum's swinging back a little bit. And we have to keep talking about that with our kids. We have to get involved in their schools. We have to know what's going on. But let's really look at the way abuse is viewed differently today. It's very crazy to talk about it because, yes, Turtle, being interesting. Hopefully people are opening their eyes more and more. They are. Hillbilly believes in justifiable homicide, but the courts don't. Yes, the laws have to be changed, updated, right? For instance, even with the internet and every big tech platform, they are getting away with you know what? The abuse of our children. Think of the internet. It is wonderful. We have so much information available to us. We can read so much stuff, right? We can connect with each other. That's all the good stuff we like and we want to continue. But the flip side is we know the predators are always 10 steps ahead, always 20 steps ahead of law enforcement, and they figure out how to make money. And the big tech companies do nothing about it because they are under the umbrella of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act from 1996. So basically, when the internet was born in 1996, they were told they are a billboard. They are a newsstand. They can't be responsible for any third-party content. So they are slipping by. So all of these people, the Tim Cooks and the Mark Zuckerbergs and all of them can smile at us and tell us they're doing everything in their power to protect our children. They are doing nothing because they are hiding behind this Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. That is an example of something that needs to be updated, actually sunset it. New legislation, new rules. We see the harms. We have all the studies of dangerous algorithms. We have all of these children. We have all of the drugs being sold online. Children dying left and right from fentanyl. You know it. I know it. Something needs to be done. And right now I'm here to say it's up to us. But I want to go back and finish up with the Menendez brothers. It is really giving me, I'm thinking a lot about it. Because of the work I do, were they driven to it? I believe them. Now, that doesn't mean I'm, again, justifying their actions. I do believe there was abuse in that home. I do believe the mother looked the other way. The mother is also accused of abuse with the oldest son. And this is so terrible. And this is going on all around our country, in every town, city, and rural area. This family abuse, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's sexual, and escalating. And that should be the focus on how are we going to get healthy again or stop this, right? Yes, it's been around for centuries, all of this stuff. But we have to be the ones to step up and be the warriors. Our hashtag is community creates change, because I don't know where this can go from here. Even what you hear about, on mainstream and cable, you really got to start turning those off, right? We're going into this election. Everybody's talking about it. It's nonstop. But we should be talking about these issues that we talk about on The Warriors. I recommend to you, I just interviewed Yasmin Vafa. It's on the channel. Wonderful human rights attorney in Washington. Young mother, doing tremendous work. It's called Rights for Girls, the organization. Right now, there are 5 states putting girls in prisons. We're talking girls under 18. And 80% of the girls in prisons are Black. Now, why is this? What are we doing? all this talk about, I don't know, DEI and this and that, and we're throwing Black girls in prisons and nobody's talking about it because they're considered perhaps throwaways? Because I've heard that term used in Washington. Horrifies me. Anybody would talk about any child, whether you're 7 months, 7 years, or 17 years old, right? We've got the foster care system. We're taking this renewed look. I want the Menendez brothers to get a new trial. I want these witnesses who will testify on their behalf. I think all the money spent on putting people in prisons, but that's a whole nother. Even Rights for Girls has they do wonderful studies and research. It's the abuse to prison pipeline. What a moneymaker. And that's what the study's about. So instead of helping, we're throwing girls in jail, prisons. We're not throwing criminals right now in jail and prisons. These illegal people who are coming here. This is upside down. So it's up to us. So I leave you with a couple of things. Your homework is, look into this Menendez brothers story. If you're not familiar with it, do a little research. If you're so inclined, watch the Netflix series. I ask why now, but we know why now. This boy bander came forward. The other witnesses, the cousin, they're already the aunt to testify on their behalf. Remember what I told you, it wasn't allowed in the second trial. And I wonder also, when I saw, I believe it was yesterday, Kim Kardashian went to their prison. At least they're together now. They were in separate prisons, and a couple of years back, they were put in the same prison, which is in San Diego, close to the Mexican border. She was visiting the Menendez brothers in prison. Whatever happened? Wasn't she going? She was becoming a lawyer. Remember that whole scam a few years ago? And she was going to get people out of prison who didn't deserve to be there. Maybe she's hooking on to this case now. Oh, it just came to me as I was saying that, for her extra 15 minutes, because, she's always grasping at something to grab headlines without really helping people. Think about what I just said. Without really helping people, grabbing headlines. A lot of people like that working in human trafficking. A lot of people working in a lot of different areas. That's what they're doing. It's about them. It's not about the victim. It's not about the survivor. It's not about the child. I ask everywhere I go, including the U.S. Senate, what is trickling down to our victims, our survivors? Because we at the Warriors are the ones, along with some other good people, providing blankets, gloves, hats, toiletries, transportation money, food money, presents at Christmas time for their children if they have them. So what is our government doing? You know the answer to that. Let's go through this. It's Sunday night here in New York City. We got to get our strength up around here. We've got the UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly. We are on lockdown. You can barely walk on the streets. You've got every kind of homeland security, police, streets blocked off. It is a tough one, but that goes with living in New York City. And I only thought today when I was out with my husband, if they could take some of these resources I'm seeing all over the streets and put them, additional resources, into the trafficking, into law enforcement going into more schools and teaching about this. And those things are happening, but not everywhere, not enough. Stopping these pimps and traffickers. Another press release just came. I have to read it quickly. I read it quickly before I started this. In Queens, across from an elementary school, there's a brothel. Now, call me wacky, but I thought none of those places, there's a law. These shops can't be anywhere near these vape shops, these smoke shops, these places. Parents are up in arms. Nobody's doing anything. They say they call the police repeatedly. They're calling their council members. Nothing. They just shut down Roosevelt Avenue, same neighborhood close by that people have been sending me pictures, talking to me about. We have seen 24 hours a day, women walking on the streets, selling their bodies. They say, well, we raided a brothel. But I'm here to say shuts down for a month, they open around the corner. So we have a lot of work to do. It is overwhelming. It is dark and ugly. Um, but just do it within your own home, in your community. Take care of your children, take care of each other, hug and love each other, block out the noise, block out the distraction, understand this is going on. And that will empower you, hopefully, to be that warrior. You're going to keep an eye on things. And Turtle Bean, you're wacky, LOL. I know, call me wacky. One of my favorite phrases. I think Janice, let me just go through some of these comments. I want to make sure. Vicious cycle. Indeed, it's a vicious cycle. Another thing I keep asking government officials, because it's a moneymaker, right? It's like we have potholes all over New York City streets. I finally, a couple of years ago, because I was told we can't fix everything because there's no money to be made when things are cleaned up and fixed. We have scaffolding all over New York City. Sometimes it's up for 10 plus years in front of a building. I was told it's a moneymaker. We can't, the internet, can't shut it down. It's a moneymaker. Trafficking, moneymaker. All of these horrible things. It's always money, the bottom line. I'm sorry, but that's the answer. Janice says growing up in Beverly Hills is definitely different than a lot of people. You may have a nicer house, a nicer lawn, and a swimming pool and a tennis court, perhaps. But your children in Beverly Hills still have devices. They are still being confronted with all of this danger. They are still on the radar of predators, and even more so, right? Probably. We have so much to talk about. Okay, let's go through this. We must outlaw subsidized housing for single mothers. Many avoid marriage to have the rent paid by the government. This is one reason for fatherless households. Now, that's another program. Like, that's another vicious cycle of all of that. Where are all the trafficked kids, though? I'm not seeing it in Manhattan. Well, Michael, you're not going to see them walking around the streets. Please, they are hiding in plain sight. That is what I am here to tell you. Be aware, hiding in plain sight. Same here, but no potholes in front of tech companies. You know what, Greg? You're right. Those roads are smooth in front of those tech companies. It is happening everywhere. That's from Gracie Loves George. Not so lucky says, hi, here in Melbourne, Australia, there's a drug injection rooms next to schools. See, this is the kind of stuff we need to preserve our children as long as we can to be kids, right? Unfortunately, they have devices now. So remember, there used to be that kind of middle school thing. They don't do that anymore. It's like they go from, I want to say like 6, 7, straight into adulthood. There's kind of no middle ground anymore because so much is thrown at them. I leave you with some additional homework besides watching the Menendez brothers on Netflix or researching it so we can talk about it again and what you think about all of this. And we do need to talk about much more openly. If we can talk now openly about domestic violence, and that's the flavor of the decades, for the last couple of decades, and we have all of this trafficking going on right under our noses. Yeah, people talk about it. I talk about it all the time because I'm trying to educate you. I'm trying to raise awareness. I want you in your own home to know what's going on, your own community. That is good enough. If we all take care of that, we can create change and honor our hashtag of community creates change. We still have to ask our elected officials. I don't care what you think of government. They keep numbers. I'm here pounding away. I'll be going to Washington again soon, walking around in my high heels, asking them all about this. 320,000 plus unaccompanied minors over our borders. Now, since that was given out, who knows, could be another 100,000 kids unaccompanied have arrived in our country, right? What's the border talk lately? I'm not hearing much of it. Yeah, we know it's bad. We know the borders need to be shut. We know there needs to be a wall up, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. Both candidates are failing at this one, in my opinion. That is my opinion. Like it, don't like it. Too much going on. And then 85,000 from a year ago, April, right there is over 425,000, right? Let's round it up to 500,000. Where are all these kids? You are to write house.gov, senate.gov, find out who represents you. Most people don't even know who represents them. And you are to write them the email. The email address will be there. You are a constituent. Your taxes pay their salaries. And say, where are all these unaccompanied minors? That's it. I'm going to keep on this one while nobody else is. You should too. Let's start the week together. Let's be positive. Let's stay in our lanes. Let's always share facts, right? Let's not do the low-hanging fruit and the fears. And let's just all come together as a community. I truly mean that when I say community creates change, because there's too much going on way up here. We have to do it down here and help each other. Thank you for joining in. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for joining tonight, listening. Please share any tweets and facts from Facebook I put. I'm going to load in tomorrow. I haven't had the time. I've been running on the road with Warriors work. Tomorrow I'll be loading some take actions on the website that I need all of you. We've got the Heat Initiative, here in New York City on Friday. Tim Cook, right in, 59th and 5th Avenue, was unveiling. It was a big splashy media thing, the iPhone 16. Heat Initiative is we are putting pressure. We stood out with signs. So when he walked out of the building onto 59th Street, he saw all of these posters that Apple does not do enough to protect kids online. They do not have enough moderators to filter out the CSAM, the child sexual abuse material. And we need them, with all their billions they're making off the backs of our children and all of us, frankly, to step up and stop telling us they don't have enough moderators. Spend some money. Remember, you get what you pay for. Let me just make sure right here. I got everybody. Sean Lucan, thank you so much for being such a supporter. I've got let me see. I want to get this right. Howie gifted the memberships. Remember, we need to build memberships. It's very important we build that community up. And let's finish up with, where are all the trafficked kids? Good question. I'm standing in front of our Congress asking the question all the time. And Tomcat, thank you. Lynn, enjoy your night. Good night, everyone. You know what? It might be nighttime where you are, nighttime here in New York City. It might be daytime where you are. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned. We're going to do this. Be positive. And let's pray for change coming up in the upcoming election. I'll leave you with that one. Community creates change. Remember, go out each and every day and be a warrior.